We are live. Welcome back on this very, very rainy day. Very, very rainy day. Stormy day out here in Louisiana. We are live. Welcome back. Good to have you in here with us. Good to see you. LSU's on a little bit of a roll. On a little bit of a roll in recruiting. Bryce Underwood, the number one player in the country, 2025 commits to LSU. We will touch on that. More coaching hires. Dennis Allen. Is he a Rudy Poo? It's early for Rudy Poo of the Year awards. My 2023 Rudy Poo of the Year award was going to Dennis Allen, but it's already January, and we could probably make the case that he could be the 2024 winner of the Rudy Poo of the Year award. We are live at 3, not at 7. Obviously, the national championship game, which we will touch on here tonight as well, or today. See, I'm already messing up. Today as well. Moving a little bit earlier just because of that. The weather was bad. Was able to come in studio a little bit earlier today that I don't normally get to do and do the live show. So we are here. We are live. Lots and lots and lots to discuss. We'll get into all of that. Big J. Cole says, AYS to close out the workday. We love to see it. Absolutely. 1,000%. A super chat. Michael Moore says, so no Waffle House parking lot show then. No. Thank you for the super chat. No Waffle House for me. That is a Carter Bryant special. So we'll allow him to do that. Speaking of Carter, he will not be joining us tonight. He will be with us tomorrow as well. So yeah. Oh, and we got some news tonight too. No, maybe not necessarily some LSU related, but it could be LSU related. As the NCAA 24 game is coming out, is Jayden Daniels going to be on the cover? A lot of chatter that Jayden Daniels might be on the cover of the new NCAA football game that will be released. Boy, wouldn't that be something? The first game back, Jayden Daniels being on the cover. I hope he is, man. I 100% hope he is. That would be awesome if he would be. Jared Hutchinson says, bro, love your show. You keep it real and give us straight facts on our Tigers. Glad to have you in here with us, Mr. Hutchinson. Thank you. That's what we try to do here as well all the time, 24/7. Let me give a little preface on the show here today. If for some reason the screen goes black, our good buddy Joe DeLeon is keeping his eyes out there for us. So if the lights go out here in the studio, he will be here to help us. I'm hoping that does not happen, but nevertheless, he will be here to help us throughout the day. Bill on YouTube says, big commitment still to come. Who is it? Well, we'll have to wait and see. I do think that there are some Louisiana guys that could pop within the next month. We'll have to see on that. But LSU with the number one wide receiver in 2025, the number one quarterback, number one player, and number one running back. We'll talk on that. That's actually how we're going to lead the show after we talk a little bit about Dennis Allen. I am not spending more than 5 minutes, I hope not, on Dennis Allen. But it's obviously was a big thing that happened here. A lot of people are chatting about it, so we'll talk about that. Tyson says, how do you do lasagna? Is that from last week's or the last show we did about the fat cat thing, or is that an Italian thing? I don't know. I do not know. But how do I like my lasagna? I don't know. Cooked. Namri, I hope I'm saying your name right. You guys know how bad I am with names. Says Blake, correct me if I'm wrong. It says, Blake, your show is amazing for us who are staying home, taking care of family. You are amazing with your news breaks. Thanks, man. I really do. Really do appreciate that. Really do appreciate that. He says fat cat. Yeah. Put my foot in my mouth on that one. Pause. Brandon Reese says Perkins tweeted about LSU possibly getting another big time recruit. Yeah, I mean, it could happen, and it could happen soon. Would not be surprised. When was it Harold Perkins or was it somebody else? I didn't see Perkins tweeted. I saw what's his name? The kid from U-High. God bless it. Moses, Keelan Moses. I saw Keelan Moses tweet that out. So yeah. And look, we'll see how it is. I mean, I don't think you're done clearly on offense. I think you're going after some big time offensive linemen. You got guys like James Simon, Trey Amos, a lot that are out there that you're wanting to get in here. On the defensive side, how quickly can Blake Baker start making an impact in recruiting? So yeah, you got to get some guys in here. And look, you got to finalize your staff, which we'll touch on. We will touch on. That is my name spelled backwards. Oh, Herman Cortez. Okay. Well, good to have you in here, Herman. I did not put 2 and 2 together there. Did not put 2 and 2 together. LSU Capital says LSU basketball giving me hope this weekend. Yeah, I mean, look, man, their win against A&M. I mean, look, they started off the year last year with a conference win. They got one on Saturday against Texas A&M. They had a massive second half. Jalen Cook was in a little bit of foul trouble. He gets out. You're able to hold on with him in foul trouble. And look, you get an SEC win. I think it's a big thing here. What did you have? 2 conference wins? I got to be real with you, man. I really want Matt McMahon to succeed here because I don't think people realize what he had to overcome, right? Like, and look, they play tough. And the one thing that I absolutely love about LSU men's basketball team is, dude, they're not the most talented team out there, not even remotely close, but they play so hard. Now, did they make goofy mistakes? Yeah, they make some goofy mistakes, but play in and play out, they're going to give you everything that they have, and that's what I love about this team. So I want to give Matt McMahon a little bit more time here. I've said this a lot. This is like a year 1 for me when it comes to Matt McMahon. Last year, it's just I'm washing my hands of it. This, for me, will be a year 1 for him, right? Like, I mean, I'm not going to judge him off last year. I'm going to consider this one as year 1. So yes. Philip Rose says, hey, Blake, any updates on the other coaches? We'll talk about that too. I promise you we'll talk about that. All right. Tons and tons to discuss. Paul Sub Martin, the last one before we get rolling, says, every sport won the first week of 2024. It's a sign of a great year, or this is a giant catch awaiting. Hope I'm wrong on the latter. Me too. I hope you're wrong on the latter too. I hope it's a great year. And look, baseball right around the corner. So many things that I'm ready for. None more than that, really. I got to be honest with you. I'm so ready to get back for these guys to get back on the diamond and start playing some baseball. Because last year we talked about college baseball on this show religiously. So I'm looking forward to doing it again. It's my second favorite sport outside of football. I could talk baseball all day long. So going to be fun for when those guys tee it up. The first pitch is thrown in February. All right, let's get rolling. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all of those social media groups. If you're on Facebook, guys, you guys have been killing it for us. Well over 2 million people reached just this last 28 days. It's been a massive couple of weeks for LSU fans. So if you haven't done so, like the page, follow the page. We greatly appreciate you doing that. Like, share those groups, share to your own social media pages. If you're watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, and notification bell. Wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Let's talk about our good friends over at BetOnline. Oh, and by the way, our good friend Tyler Alexander over at LPT Realty. If your guys are in real estate and you're wanting to join one of the best teams, one of the biggest and best teams, just give them a call. There's nothing wrong with the discussion. Tyler is branching out his team. He's got so many people with him. You will not regret the phone call that you will have with him. Or if you just need your home sold, you're looking for a new home, rates starting to come down a little bit, you need to give him a call. Let's talk about him over at LPT Realty. Don't go anywhere. Tons of LSU stuff to discuss. We do that next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
We're back. Yes. Rodney says this man, Dennis Allen, said just as Julius. We'll get to that. But Rodney says, hello from Colorado. Blake, good to have you in here, Rodney. Yeah, where are you listening to the show from tonight? Where are you listening from tonight? 985-225-337. Or if you're just not inside the state of Louisiana, but you're from here, where are you listening to us from today? Yeah, y'all be careful out there. Mark says tornado watch in West Wego, Hoss. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Rob says, and I'm not going to put this up, says, can you go live daily at this time so I never have to listen to other people at 3? We would try, man. I mean, normally 3 is I can't do that. I'm doing it because, I had time today to go at 3. We're going to stay at 7 for the current moment and current time. All right. Let's get this thing rolling, y'all. So yesterday, look, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but because it was a massive deal, I think I would be a little bit remiss not to talk about this. But yesterday, at the end of the game, Tyrann Mathieu gets the interception. The Saints lining up in victory formation at the 1-yard line. They hand the ball off to Jamal Williams. He goes in and scores. At the end of the game, Arthur Smith, who, if I'm not mistaken, last night was fired by the Atlanta Falcons, runs up to Dennis Allen, and basically with a lot of explicits saying, what the F are you doing? Why are you doing that? And I got to be honest with you. I'm going to talk about that. I don't necessarily blame him completely on that. Now, here's the truth. The Falcons fans, Arthur Smith, a lot of people were upset about the Saints lining up in victory formation and getting Jamal Williams a touchdown. Here's just my thought on it, okay? I agree with the sentiment that you gotta stop what's going to happen, right? Like, if a team lines up, you got to stop what they're trying to do. And if you don't want them to score that many points, stop it. Earlier in the year, Miami absolutely kicked the dog shit out of the Denver Broncos. Okay, like in the NFL, you're grown men, you're grown-ups. If you can't stop it, then so be it. I'm not going to be mad about a team in the NFL, even somewhat in college to some extent, running the score up. Stop us if you can. Stop us if you can. Like we saw Georgia just do in the bowl game, beating Florida State 63-3. It is your job to impose your will on your opponent. Here's the problem that I have. It's two massive things. Number one, I understand the situation that Jameis said, listen, we want to give Jamal Williams the touchdown. And the question that I have here is, well, if you're going to do that, okay, if you're going to go in and score, why are you have a certain personnel that's on the field. regardless, you could have called a play in the huddle. I do think it's a little bit of Bush League what they did in reference to lineup and victory formation. If you're going to call the play, then call the play. Make DA call the timeout and say, hey, we want Jamal Williams to score a touchdown. Now, I don't really mind necessarily that Dennis Allen, apologized. I mean, look, it is what it is. I mean, coaches have rules. Coaches have understandings. What I think is a little bit crazy is that there wasn't enough respect for DA when he made the call for victory formation for them to do it. And everybody's like, well, we're just trying to get Jamal Williams a touchdown on the year because he's one of the leaders in our locker room. Dog, you've had 17 games to get a touchdown. I get what you're saying. Like, I understand it. Like, I'm not mad at the situation. I do think it's a little Bush League that you go from victory formation to score. But I think the bigger concern is, for me, and the only concern for me is there's not any respect for Dennis Allen in that locker room. Right? Like, none. Because I know that Jamal Williams and they wanted to get in the TD. You think players would have done that to Sean Payton? Like, let me ask you a God's honest question. If any good coach, great coach, would have said, take a knee at the 1 yard line, do you think that they would have changed the play on him? Now, the truth is that really, Sean Payton would have read the room a little bit better and probably gotten Jamal Williams the touchdown. It is a rival, but Dennis Allen is he's above his skis here because he has lost the locker room, and we're not going to fire him. And everybody's going to be like, oh well, he went 9-8. He's not. There is no reason that the Saints should not have won their division. Remember when all of you, when there was chatter out there about the Saints potentially signing Baker Mayfield, and everybody's like, oh, no, Baker Mayfield sucks. Well, here's the truth. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucks won the division. Like, this is what I don't understand from Saints fans, okay? Like, I don't understand it. Or not Saints fans, but Saints media. If that shit were going on at LSU, there would be a public outcry more than what they're doing. An outcry to fire this dude. It's Dennis Allen's, his first winning season as a head coach. Good for him. But you're too talented to be 9-8. You should have been in the playoffs, even though earlier in the year you fumbled the bag against a team like Green Bay. All I'm going to say is this. Players know, and you can see players' reactions. They don't respect him. They 1,000% do not respect him. And that is the biggest issue. It's not about the victory formation for me. Look, I hate the Falcons, okay? I'm not a Falcon. I loathe them. To me, they're the Alabama to my LSU. Like I don't like them. They're the biggest rival that we have. Doesn't stop you doing something that's a little bit Bush League. I know you want to get it. I know Alvin Kamara is out there tweeting to Jameis Winston, and he's using some funny language in his tweet. But nevertheless, you would have never done that to Sean. Never. There's a level of respect of when your coach says, hey, guys, enough is enough. Take a knee. This dude had 17 games to score TD. Maybe if he didn't get his opportunity, it is what it is. But you do have a guy last year that led the NFL in rushing touchdowns. He only got one this year. And it came off of a little trick play. Bottom line is if you're a Saints fan, I don't think that Gail knows what she's doing. I think she's in over her head. She inherited a team that she wanted the Pelicans. Go own and run the Pelicans. If that's your baby, go do it. I don't think that she's equipped enough to run the Saints. You got Mickey Loomis. Look, I like Mickey. Mickey is maybe a little bit above average GM without Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Now, you could say, well, most teams would be when you have a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame player leave. Yeah, okay. But they're not doing things. Guys, they should have drafted a quarterback last year. They should have moved up to draft a quarterback last year. But you go and pay $150 million for a guy like for a guy like Derek Carr. Guys, he can't lead you anywhere. Don't let the last game of the year against a team that's ass in the Falcons fool you. I don't think Derek Carr's a bad quarterback. He's an average quarterback. But it's not worth $150 goddamn dollars. It's not worth that. Probably the most Saints talk that I've done in a year on this. But I'm telling you, if we are mainly an LSU podcast, an LSU show, if this shit were going on, okay, if this shit were going on in LSU, it would be utter chaos. Utter chaos. Hell, I saw you do things and want people fired for less. I've seen you call for people to be fired for less. You got some people out there, for example, calling for Brian Kelly's head. What the F are you talking about? In less games, he's got more wins than Dennis Allen in a tougher division, a tougher conference. Guys, the NFC South is the worst division in the NFL. Dennis Allen couldn't get more wins than Brian Kelly in more games. Like, what are we discussing here? But you got Rudy Poos out here who are, fire Brian Kelly. You sound like a dumbass. You 1,000% sound like a dumbass. If you have a buddy, let me just tell any of you this before we move on. If you have a buddy that tells you, fuck, Brian Kelly's not it. We need to move on from Brian Kelly. You need to tell him that he is the biggest casual of all time. That he does not know college football. He doesn't know football. I'm telling you. Listen to your buddy Blake. Dennis Allen, the ultimate Rudy Poo. If these guys in the locker room do not respect Dennis Allen, you got to move on from him. You cannot be scared to pull off the Band-Aid. You cannot be scared to pull off the Band-Aid. You know why Sean Payton's culture worked? Let me tell you why Sean Payton's culture worked. Sean Payton's culture worked because Sean Payton ran his own culture in his own locker room. Elevating Dennis Allen to keep that same culture with the same personnel does not work. You can't hire a guy to implement a system like Sean Payton did when he's not Sean Payton. It's quite honestly, let me tell you what it is. In sports, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We're going to bring this guy and elevate him so he can run exactly what Sean Payton. We're going to keep the same culture. How stupid is that? The guy that led it is not here anymore. Like, what are you? You're going to look back on the Dennis Allen era and say when people said that might be the stupidest thing you've ever heard. Because quite honestly, guys, it is. What do I know? All right. Let's get to some LSU. Sorry that fired me up the way that it did, but I just have so much frustration towards the Saints that it comes out, man. Like, I mean, I love the Saints. I love the Saints, but I get so frustrated by the front office decisions that they make since the late Tom Benson passed. The decisions they make are utterworldly stupid. Utterworldly stupid. And what you'll do is you'll remain about a 8-9 win team, and you won't get high enough to go get a quarterback that you need. And go get pieces that you need. You won't. Guys, the number one thing they should do, and you're going to say I'm biased here, they should go up in the draft to get Jane Daniels. Go get your quarterback. You're not going to win it with Derek Carr. I promise you won't. Okay. Here we go. Let's move on. Because LSU does have some coaching searches that they're still going after, or they're still in with. Now, we will talk a little bit about the national title here in just a little bit, because it's going to be a big one here. But listen, we talked about this a lot with the Blake Baker news. So let's get on it. So Friday, Blake Baker, the Missouri defensive coordinator, clearly hired. We talked about him on our last show. And a lot of the questions were, Blake, what do you think and what are you hearing about what could happen with the position coaches defensively? And we'll talk a little bit offensively. So what have we heard since Saturday? Look, here's my opinion, and then I'm going to give you some things that I'm hearing. My first opinion would be, now we got to figure out what he would coach and how they're going to implement this. I would not be shocked if a guy like Bob Diaco was moved into the linebacking or being the next linebackers coach at LSU. Now, I would not be surprised, obviously, if Blake Baker did that. He coached safeties at Missouri, but it wouldn't surprise me. Either one of those things I'm okay with, because I think Brian Kelly feels very comfortable in having a guy like Bob Diaco on his staff. And look, man, he's the head coach. And if he wants a guy like Bob Diaco to be elevated to linebackers, I'm kind of just being real with you. I'm all right with that. I don't have a problem with that. He's got a lot of experience coaching that position. He's coached a lot of really good linebackers in his time, whether it be at Notre Dame, whether it be at Louisiana Tech, whether it be at Purdue, whether it be in Nebraska. Guys, the truth is, and what people don't really want to talk about is that Bob Diaco has a lot of dudes that he coached at the linebacker position that either played in the NFL or have had some tenured little bit of careers in the NFL. What I do think is, and what I will continue to mention, is what I think they're going to do at corner. We've had a lot of discussions at corner about Corey Raymond. I've made my feelings well known. If you haven't heard it, go to just literally Saturday's show. I just would not be surprised if he's the guy. Now, do I believe, and here's what I've heard. So all of that being opinion to start off with, what I have heard here is that it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Corey Raymond will be your next DB's coach. Now, do I believe, that there are some other guys at that position, some other coaches at that position that are throwing their name into the hat that want to be the next corners coach at LSU? I know for a pretty darn good fact that there are a plethora here. That's a good vocabulary word for you. A plethora amount of coaches that want to throw their name in the hat for being the next corners coach at LSU. Why not? Guys, again, since Saban was here in 2000, look at the corners that you've had. Whether it is Corey Raymond, Ron Cooper, whoever the DB's coach is, whoever the corners coach is, it doesn't really matter to me. But one thing that I didn't bring up on Saturday that I want to bring up back here, and a good buddy of mine in coaching brought this to my attention. Guys, if you've ever trusted Dave Aranda, there's a reason he brought in Bill Busch. There's 100% a reason why a guy that you trust in and to call plays, or you maybe just you did trust, and calling plays in Dave Aranda, guys, there's a reason he brings in another coach to coach safeties. Why would he do that? Now, the ultimate question becomes, I do think that Corey wants it. I think Corey wants to be your next corners coach. And again, would not surprise me if he is. But I just want there to be known, Corey Raymond is not your only option, because I promise you, I've talked to one of them. I've talked to one every week since he knew that the position would be open and Robert Steeples would leave. There's coaches out there that I think that that want to be here, are from the state of Louisiana, that want that position and are going to throw their name in there and say why they want it. Now, I do think Brian Kelly is a very detail-oriented guy. I don't know if there's 1,000% confirmation there. I do feel about 90-95% that it could be Corey, but there is a lot of people wanting to throw their hat into that ring. defensive line coach and DN coaches. I talked about this religiously on Saturday and want to bring it up. I think Kevin Peoples, who was at Missouri, does make some sense here. I think that one thing that we got to keep in mind in all of this, one thing for sure that, at least that I'm going to keep in mind here, is what are the discussions like with Blake Baker and Brian Kelly on potentially some of the guys that Blake Baker would want to bring in? Because when Matt House was hired, and even this even happened during the Orgeron era, Ed made hires that Ed wanted to make. He didn't necessarily consult everybody on what he wanted to do. I do think that Brian Kelly, who is notoriously known for getting opinions from others, I do think Blake Baker has a say in maybe one, possibly two assistants. One for sure. I think Peoples, as an example, the outside linebacker, DN coach, edge rush guy, makes a lot of sense there. Now, I know a lot of people have brought up Jamar Cain to me, and you know how I feel about Jamar Cain. I would not mind that in the slightest if Jamar Cain were to come back. I will be interested to see, though, what Brian Kelly allows Blake Baker to do. Were there some non-negotiables on potential staff guys that he would want to bring in? That in and of itself, I think that here's what I feel. I think that of any position coach that you make, like I've always felt good that when Matt House was fired, you'd hire a really good DC. I think you've done that. I think the biggest hire that they will have to make in the next couple of weeks comes down to defensive line and edge rush. I think you've been pretty good at edge rush so far. I think you've got some really good guys in from recruiting. Guys, even some in the portal. I think Braden Swinson had a pretty damn good year, solid year if Matt House would have played him, and Deshaun Womack being another. I think the biggest hire that you can make is along the defensive line, because quite honestly, it's your weakest link right now. I know a lot of you want to say corner. I know a lot of you want to say safety. Maybe you're right. And maybe that will come to play out here. But for me, if you can't control the line of scrimmage, guys, you got to control the line of scrimmage. There's a reason why games are won and lost up front. We're going to talk about the national title here in a minute. These two teams that are playing for the national title tonight, yeah, they may have had some issues at times, okay, controlling the line of scrimmage in some former games. But the truth is, they won the battle every single week, every single game, at controlling and winning the line of scrimmage in its infancy. I just think that you got to hit the biggest home run there, because you have had a rotating door at defensive line under O, even some parts under Les. You're going to have to hire a guy and bring in some stability, because you cannot continue a rotating door, okay, at defensive line. Now, I don't know what a guy like Mason Smith will do. Like I was told that he was torn on his decision, what he would or would not do. Ironically enough, a lot of people – hold on. Are we back? Are we back here? Okay. The weather's starting to get pretty bad. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear us. Give us a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear us. Okay. Yeah, weather started getting bad here. Bottom line, if you do not start doing things better along the defensive line, you're going to continue to have the same issues that you've been having really over the last 4 years. Because, guys, since 2019, you have not had consistent defensive line play in the interior. Last year was the best interior play that you had with Mekhi Wingo and Jacoby and Guillory and Jaquelin Roy. That was the best interior defensive line play that you have had over the last 4 years. If you are not able to sustain that and get better there, you're going to have issues. The bottom line becomes, too, when you hire that defensive line coach, you're going to have to go into the portal. I don't want to hear anymore from people about your spreadsheets. I don't want to hear about, the scholarship limits. You don't have a choice. You do not have a choice when it comes to the interior of the defensive line. You're not good enough there right now. You want to make the playoff? You can make the playoff next year. I 100% believe you're one of the best 12 teams in the country right now. I 100%. But what I will tell you is that teams like Ole Miss, games like Alabama, because you're going to be able to do enough offensively, in my opinion, with Garrett Nussmeier and others to win you games. What you cannot allow to happen, just cannot happen against teams like Alabama and teams like Ole Miss, because both of those teams ran for over 200 yards on your ass. Here's another thing. Last year, the same exact thing happened. Last year, the same exact thing happened. Think about the 3 losses, or technically 4, but the 3 in-season losses that you had. I'm counting out Georgia, but you could even throw them in. Where did you lose the game? A lot of it. Because teams would line up on you offensively and run it right at you, and there wasn't shit you could do. I'm old enough to remember when Hendon Hooker, came into Baton Rouge at 11 a.m., and quite honestly was not on. He did not have a great game. Hendon Hooker's worst game in 2022 was against LSU throwing the football. That's not opinion. It's 1,000% fact. Go look at the stats if you don't believe me. But bottom line is, what did Tennessee do? They came into Death Valley. They came into Baton Rouge at 11 a.m. They kicked the door down and ran it down your throat. Now, there was a report that came out from and listen, I don't know the gentleman, I don't know if this is report that I don't know how well sourced it is, There is a report coming out of Texas, out of Austin, that Bo Davis is expected to remain in Austin. It was reported by Football Scoop that LSU, as much of a pursuit that they had for Blake Baker, they had the same type of pursuit, if not more, for a guy like Bo Davis. Guys, I got to be real with you. I understand the money that has been mentioned around Bo Davis. To be real, I don't think that you have a choice. I think you got to do everything humanly possible to get a guy like that, or to go get another high-quality defensive line coach. That is where you're losing football games. You can say, well, Blake, what about Auburn in 2022 when Jane Daniels threw for 80 yards? Guys, those days are well beyond us, right? Like, those days of struggling in year one offensively with Brian Kelly is beyond us. Now, could they come out next year and have a game where the offense completely takes a dump on the 50-yard line? 1,000%. But I can't envision that always happening. You're going to score points. The biggest weakness, games are won up front. Why is Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, why are all those teams historically, at least in the last 4 or 5 years, and even from Bama's perspective and Georgia's perspective, why are they constantly in the playoff? Guys, you know why it is. They're dominating you up front. They're dominating you. You have a guy and Bo Davis that could overnight change that. A guy like Kevin Peoples at Missouri that could change that. That is the biggest hire to me. Corner, you bring Corey Raymond back, okay, it is what it is. He wants to come back, great. Good on him. But the bottom line remains, no hire is bigger to me than the defensive line coach for position reasons. None. Teams in your losses smacking that ass up and down the field, and if you're going to be real with yourself, you know that. Okay. Now, where do they go if they don't get a guy like Bo Davis? I do not know. There have been chatter out there about a guy like Carl Dunbar. I don't know how much I believe that, but there is chatter, okay? Carl has, in his later years in college, did get a little lazy in recruiting. You gotta bring a guy in here that can and wants and will recruit. So, with all that being said, would not be surprised if Diaco got elevated to linebackers. Would not be surprised if Baker wanted that position. Wouldn't be surprised if Baker coached safeties. And being a little honest with you, if your DC's back there with the safeties and corners, kind of makes me feel a little bit better about what you're going to do in the secondary. Guys, the biggest, and I mean biggest, leap for Missouri, it was, you can talk about their front. Missouri's always had a pretty decent defensive line. Remember the years like Michael Sam and those, like they've always been able to recruit really good along the defensive line. Mekhi Wingo literally showed you that. Mekhi didn't even really hit the field that much as a freshman. Like that's how good they've been at recruiting that position. One thing that they drastically got better in is safety play and corner play, mainly due to the fact that I think that Blake Baker was back there. Let's see what they do with the defensive line. I will tell you that there's no bigger hire to me, as I've been saying over the last 20 minutes, more than the defensive line. All right, we do have some questions in here. Let me and no, not Ed Orgeron. Ed Orgeron and Brian Kelly cannot coexist here. Not together. Quite honestly, Ed Orgeron can't coexist with his damn self. Why would you want to bring him back? Why would you want to bring him back? I'm not bringing. Can I tell you what Ed Orgeron's like? Let me tell you what Ed Orgeron's like. Love him to death. Love him to death. Ed is like the girl that you dated who you have a lot of great times with. Hell, you might even marry her. But deep down in your soul, you know that Couillon crazy. That Cajun is crazy, cause toxic. Ed in his later years has been more toxic. I am not bringing that toxicity back here. No way. No how. Okay. So something that we've been talking about since Mike Denbrock left has revolved around Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton. There clearly is chatter on the Alabama side about Cortez. I don't know where that goes. What I would tell you is it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, could I be wrong and this not happen? Yes. It just does not make a lot of sense to me if you're not going to take the interim tag off of Sloan and Cortez as your co-OCs. Now, do I think Joe Sloan calls the plays? Honestly, guys, yes, I do. 100% I do. I just don't know I don't know how much sense it makes to leave Cortez out of it since you promoted him. Here's what I'll tell you about the offensive positions. There are some names out there for tight end, and we'll continue to keep our eyes and ears out for that one. Guys, I'm okay with Sloan. I am okay with Cortez. And let me tell you why. Something that we didn't mention, okay? is this. Let's just say, for argument's sake, let's say that the experiment, and not even really an experiment, but let's just say that Joe Sloan and Cortez do not work out. You have a head coach that will take a play sheet and call plays. I mean, I hate to tell you that, but no, actually, I don't hate to tell you that. I kind of love to tell you that. If the outright worst starts happening, Brian Kelly will pick up a play sheet and start calling plays. That is his side of the football. Will he have to do that? No, I do not believe that. I've said this. I've got this very well sourced, talking to people around the building. You come to LSU to run Brian Kelly's offense. And I think it's only a matter of time before the interim tag is taken off. Now, I've told you this before, and I want to make it very well known. Okay? Brian Kelly, regardless of who it is, will do his due diligence on every coach that he's hiring. That includes the next offensive coordinator at LSU. Blake, why is it taking time? I would rather a coach take his time. Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton aren't going anywhere. Now, Cortez could go to Bama. Good on him. We've had 862,000 wide receivers coaches, and it just so happens that no matter what happens or who the wide receivers coach is, Odell Beckham Jr.'s, Jarvis Landry's, DJ Chark's, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase's, Justin Jefferson's, Brian Thomas Jr.'s, I was going to say Terrence Tolliver, but Terrace Marshall's continue to come up here. Really and truthfully, it hadn't really mattered. You could get my fat ass out there recruiting wide receivers. Dude, it's never the position I worry about. Now, do I think Cortez has done a fantastic job? I think he's done more than a fantastic job based off of the development that we've seen from that position group. But I just don't know how much sense it makes to move on from them. I would elevate them personally. We'll see how that goes. Okay, we got a couple of super chats in here. Let's get to them. We got to talk about recruiting as well. We'll do that. Chris Dreamless on YouTube with a $5 super chat says Corey Raymond's last few years weren't that great. Can't hang on to 16, 17, and 18. So, Chris, number one, thank you for the super chat. That is my entire point. It is my entire point that, and what you say here, you can't hold on to that. Because here's the truth. If you go 16, 17, 18, hell, I'll even give you 19. Because what was Ed Orgeron doing in those years? And what did 20 and 21 prove to us? There are question marks surrounding it. And let me just tell you how I feel. Here's how I feel. How I feel is there are a lot of people in the media that like Corey. I like Corey too. I'm not, because I don't have any ill will towards the man at all. But just because he's your friend does not make him the best decision. Because if you get down to brass tacks, if you get down to if this were anybody else in the country, anybody else in the country, and I told you over the last 4 years, this position coach is 97th in passing yards allowed, what would you do? I know, guys, after 846 episodes, I know for an outright fact what you would do. You would hate it. You would be punching air. BK, why would BK make a stupid ass move like that? I'm telling you, you would be saying that. Just because Corey has had success here does not excuse. So let here's what's funny to me. To Chris's point, you'll point out 16, 17, and 18, but refuse to want to talk about 19, 20, 21, and 22, even 23, and the issues he's had since 19. Again, I'm old enough to remember when he put pressure on LSU for a retention. I'm old enough to remember when he got his buddies like Ryan Clark to run out there and make a stink out of Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly showing mad disrespect to Corey Raymond, not even having a conversation with him. It's his decision. It's his decision. Again, I feel all right. Lights went out. Generac. All right. Handy Danny Joe De Leon, good evening, good sir.
I wasn't prepared for that to happen. See,
Well,
I was just watching to see if your internet was going to be good, and then you're texting me, your lights went out, and I was like, "Oh shit, what the hell?"
My lights did go out.
How bad's the weather there?
Really, really, really bad. All right. How about this? So, look, we can move on. Do me a favor, if you don't mind, good sir. I'm going to come back, talk about recruiting very quickly about LSU. Then I want you to join me, and let's lead into and end the show talking about the national title game. Fair?
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little recruiting. Joe, then in about 10 minutes, will join us. We'll close the show out talking recruiting. Don't go anywhere. We got some breaks here. Hopefully my lights do not go out again. Generac for the save, though, here, Joe. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. All right. So let's do this. Let's talk about recruiting really quickly. We'll bring Joe Daly on back in here in just a quick second to wrap up the show. Everybody do us a favor, though, by hitting the like and share to all those social media groups, share to all of those social media pages. Let me zoom out just a little bit here because I feel like I'm on top of you. Okay. This is what happens when the weather is really bad. Okay. All right, there we go. All right. So let's talk a little bit of recruiting before we get out of here. On Saturday, the number one player in the country, the 2025 quarterback Bryce Underwood, committed to LSU, giving the Tigers the not only number one player in the country, but the number one quarterback, number one wide receiver, and number one running back in DeCorian Moore, Harlan Berry, all the number one guy at their positions for the 2025 class. I told you, and I know that what a lot of you will say, well, Blake, they got to hold on to these guys. I'm with you. What LSU and Brian Kelly is doing on the offensive side of the ball, specifically, going into the 2025 class, guys, quite honestly, we have not seen. Now, I 100% feel really good about what Brad Davis is going to do along the offensive line. And I still think that you're going to get maybe a receiver. You got J.D. LaFleur out there at the tight end. You're doing wonders along the offensive side. You're going to bring in probably another very solid offensive class. You're the number one recruiting class right now in the country, okay, when it comes to recruiting. You got to pick it up a little bit defensively. But, guys, this is what you're going to continue to look like, or what it's going to continue to look like under Brian Kelly in recruiting. It's an amazing job by Joe Sloan, Cortez Hankton, Brad Davis, Frank Wilson, all of the entire offensive staff and what they are doing on the offensive side. Guys, quite honestly, the way that you're recruiting right now is elite. Again, Bryce Underwood commits, Harlan Berry commits, DeCorian Moore commits. You know what you're going to get out of Brad Davis along the offensive line. So I will continue to say this. Your offensive staff, you're going to have to start asking yourself questions. Now, we'll see how play calling goes and how things go on the field in 24. But right now, from a recruiting aspect, guys, they've been elite. Not good. They've been elite. I think they'll continue to do that in the Brian Kelly tenure. Just got to fix some things defensively. Let me do this. I missed this because we got the lights out before we get to Joe DeLeone. But Brandon Zahn, what's up, buddy? Says, any possibility of hiring Jamar Cain back? I do. Thank you for the super chat. I do think that they would hire Jamar Cain if given the opportunity and chance. I, however, do not believe that he has been contacted per sources. So we'll see. Okay. Joe DeLeone, you ready to talk a little national title? Okay, so here's our good man, our co-host for the Ruffino and Joe show. Thank you for joining us. We got a pretty big game tonight, and we're going to be live on Ruffino and Joe show after the game, too.
Yeah, hopefully the game doesn't end at an ungodly time, and then we can actually.
You will not see my pretty ass. By the way, look at this. Look at this. Got the
home field on? You got home field on?
Yeah.
It's good looking.
All right. So we talked about this yesterday, but on our show, if you hadn't subscribed, y'all need to. Ruffino and Joe show. Now that we're here, Joe, now that the game is upon us, any other thoughts than what we discussed yesterday?
No, man, I'm still sticking with where I stand.
Which is because some people
which
didn't
is
watch
Washington. Yeah, I still stand with that. I think as both of these teams have had tremendous seasons, I think that Washington, the advantage that they have compared to the advantages that Michigan has over Washington, that strength in the receiver room is just going to be so significant. And we talked about it the whole week. I don't know how they're going to be able to stop all three of those receivers. That to me is going to be the biggest factor here for the new founded Big Ten championship game.
I should have never said that to you yesterday. I said it to you because now you're going to be talking about that all off season.
Oh yeah,
the Big Ten title game. So look, I do think that Dylan Johnson, being reported today that he's about 90% a go. Will he stay there? Joe, I just think it's a big thing that he's playing right for Washington.
Yeah, I see that when I hear 90%. I'm taking really 15 off of that.
Oh, okay. 50?
No, 15%.
Oh, okay.
15%. So 75, like you're saying. I don't think he's fully healthy. There's no way. He's probably with an ankle injury. He's probably not going to be at full strength. I doubt they try to run the ball that much anyways. It's not their bread and butter, and it's not going to work against them.
Well, Dylan Johnson came out, the Washington running back, if you don't know who that is. He came out and literally said, I am going to rely on my heart and modern medicine, and I'm going to shoot my knee up. And I'm playing. Like, he did not hold back. Like, dude wants to go for it. And look, you know what, Joe? Can I just tell you the truth?
Yeah.
Good on him. Bro, they're playing for a national title. Like, you don't get another one of these.
I don't hate that, but I also am one of these. Like, is their next back one that much of a drop off from what?
Yeah, quite honestly, because Toby Rogers is the next back with the most next yards. Joe, he only has 182 rushing yards. Like you got 1,000, you got 1,100 yard back. He's going to get to 1,200 tonight. Okay.
Right.
The next one has 182.
I can understand what you're saying here, but at the same time, having an injured running back with a bad knee is worse than whoever the backup is that we've got very, very minimal exposure to. I'm just a little worried that we're going to do this whole thing and that Washington's going to do this whole thing. And Kalen DeBoer seems like one of those coaches that's going to be rallying around one of his guys, having that mentality, putting him out there, and he doesn't have a lot of burst, and he can't pick up more than a 3 or 4 yard gain when he's got a little bit of room to him. I don't know how much of an advantage to that is for the running game. That might end up hurting them more than it ends up actually helping him, having him available.
Is saying the word burst? Do you like saying the word burst? I feel like you like saying the word burst.
No, what was the spurt was the one yesterday that you got uncomfortable with? Was that it? Or was that no, that was Sean. Never mind.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
Show.
I think you said something like what did you say yesterday? I forget. Oh, you want to get on the back of, and I'm like, oh, you want to get on the back of somebody?
Jesus.
Like Look, I think for me, I think you posted a thing on Believe today.
Yep.
And I ridiculously didn't see my name on there, so I was like, well, we split on our picks. I was such an idiot because it was on there. Anyway, look, I just feel like Michigan's. I think they're just going to be a little bit too much for them. I think they're going to choke them out. I really do. I think the run game's going to choke them out. I think they're going to be able to play the time of possession game. Joe, why do I feel like at some point this Washington luck that they've had on defense is coming to an end? Right? Like, I mean, Joe, there's a reason they're in the hundreds in total defense. Now, here's an interesting stat for you that I heard this morning. You ready? The team since 2019, the team with the better total defense has won every single game in this one since 2019. Better total defense.
What was that 2018 year?
It was Clemson too, but Alabama was like one spot ahead of them.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. The one thing that we didn't really talk about, and then I kind of had been thinking about today, is I look at the teams that gave Washington their biggest trouble this year. The teams that maybe played a little closer than they should have. It was Arizona, it was USC, those are the teams that are a little more spread you out, attack you downfield type of a defense, because I don't necessarily, they've got the Muhammad kid who's a really good corner, but the rest of their corners are pretty weak. I understand that Utah had a pretty good day against that run defense, but I feel as though they have done better than people think that they've done against these Michigan style teams. I don't know, dude. I really think that if there's one team that hasn't been exposed to a squad like this, it's Michigan. It's not Washington.
Rick says, Joe, I agree with the Washington pick. Washington's no 2019 LSU. I mean, you're not going to get that in here.
No.
He says, but similar in that you can't stop all three wide receivers, Chase, Jefferson, and Marshall. I agree with you. I agree with that, Joe. You can't stop all three of them. And I think that it's Michigan's biggest weakness. Like, I legitimately.
Well, it's any team's biggest weakness. This is the whole thing that we've talked about.
Because, like, for example, let me give an example. If, let's just say hypothetically for a second that Alabama would have beat Michigan, that Milroe gets in and they go for 2, they win it, whatever. Okay.
Right.
I do think that Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and Trey Amos have a much better chance of guarding those three than what Michigan has, right? Like, I do think that it's more of a battle between that team. But, you know, like, I remember in 2019, like, everybody's like, oh, man, who's the kid from the Falcons? We just played the Falcons yesterday as Saints fans. It's he played at Clemson. He's the corner. AJ Terrell.
Yes.
AJ Terrell. And everybody's like, oh, AJ Terrell's going to lock up Jamar Chase. And then Jamar Chase just, like, takes a dump on his chest, no pause, okay, and, like, just goes stupid. I don't think Odunze would do that to, like, an Alabama. But I really don't. I don't think he's Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, you know, man, I got that swag, that polo down my, like, I don't know.
I get that, but where this all comes down to, and this is what we said during the week, and this was like my whole biggest argument, and then this relates to the comment that you just left. If Odunze gets taken out of the game and they do a really good job of covering him and they limit him, kind of like what happened with Quentin Johnson last year when he got completely removed, like had no impact whatsoever. TCU was done the minute that they didn't have that secondary option. It puts a lot of stress on a defense trying to keep up with three guys. It puts a ton of stress. And I said this before, the only way, or the only time that we've seen this offense like really hampered was when the team had the flu. I know that you don't really like that excuse. I know that you don't love that. But one guy having
the only team in the country that's had the flu this year.
Well, Florida State also had it, and we saw how bad they played when they were dealing with all that stuff. My point is that it is just so
40 on Boston College.
It's so rare in the history of college football to have three guys that are good enough to be selected in the top 100 of the upcoming NFL draft that are, you know, have put up 1,000-yard seasons in their careers and are as productive as they are. And we saw the stark difference of when McMillan comes back versus when he was out with that injury. The offense was good, but not elite. And then the minute he comes back, it's too much. It's overwhelming. And I think that we saw against Texas the full capability of what they're able to do is that they did a good job of covering Odunze. They did a good job of covering McMillan. And then Polk was the one who popped off early, and then that opened the whole thing up. I will say, though, Michigan, though, the experience of being in these spots and having gotten their ass kicked enough times, I feel like they're motivated. That's the one big thing.
Well, here's another question. How does Michael Penix react to getting hit? I don't care if Michigan gets sacks. How does he – because he has not been hit a lot this year at all. 12 sacks on the year for this Washington offensive line that they've given up. What happens if, you know, he just starts getting lit up in the pocket?
Yeah.
I do think that's a big thing. So, let's give our score predictions here, Joe, before we get out. I predicted last night 31-28 Michigan, and you predicted what again?
35-31 in favor of Washington.
Okay. Well, we'll see you hopefully if the weather, you know.
Yeah. Maybe I'll record something. Maybe I'll give the Freno and Joe fans something. I know they like me more, so.
If they're
Your
not in
internet
the
gives
South,
out.
if they're not in the South, they do. The South is not. It's I'm more loved in the South clearly, and you're loved
Yep.
everywhere else around the country. All right, we'll see y'all soon. Peace.